Live from VentureX Studios, it's JP, Kathy, and the crew.
All right. Woo, we made it to the end of the week. It's a miracle.
Amen.
Welcome to JP, Kathy, and the crew. Super excited today. We've got Lathan Watts in studio live with us. And he does not have his professional hat on. So we will say that. I'm not even going to say the We love the company that he works for, or the organization that he works for, but we're not going to be talking about that today because it's Friday. We wanted to have some fun. Oh my goodness, we wanted to talk SCOTUS.
Sure.
There are so many things we could talk about today, but we are going to keep it as fun and positive as we can, including a parody that Lathan has done. And who's the guy who did that parody with you?
Stan Corbett.
Stan. Okay,
yeah.
I thought that was Stan.
That's Stan the man. He's the other voice you hear on the snarky parenthetical.
Okay, y'all are hilarious. So we're gonna play that closer to the end of the show. So stay tuned. Get your friends to come on and check it out. It's when you sent it to me, I was like, oh, and I thought it was something funny, because Lathan's got just this wicked great, sense of humor. And I thought, oh, it must be something funny he found online, and then. Like on YouTube, and I'm like, wait, Lathan did this. This is him. I know this guy.
Yeah, we had a lot of fun.
Oh, you can tell.
Yeah, there's a little outtake reel at the end of the video.
And we're going to play that today, too, because the outtake reel is just as funny as the other. So anyways, good times. We're also going to talk a little bit about your favorite Christmas movie. Do you have a movie that was your favorite or a TV show that was your favorite when you were a kid? As an adult, do you have a favorite? What's your favorite color? Yeah, I mean, I love Elf. That's not my only favorite one. That and A Christmas Story. I could watch those a bajillion times and never get tired of them.
Yes.
And I do. But anyway, so we're going to talk about, do you have movies that you used to watch with your kids or that you watch with your kids now? Or they're movies that literally it's not Christmas if you have not
Absolutely
gone to church and celebrated Jesus' birthday
right.
and watched this movie.
Dear Lord, baby Jesus.
Yeah, and see there. So anyway, lots of fun stuff to talk about. Well, some serious stuff and some fun stuff. Let's go ahead. Oh, and then we're going to talk Dallas Cowboys in just a little while. I was so tired. I couldn't even watch all of the game last night, but we won. So
they pulled it off.
Oh my goodness! So thank goodness. So we'll talk about that here in a few minutes because I want to pull up some stats to talk about. I kind of feel like that was we needed to win that game to even
must win.
Yeah, that was one of those that it was like
because otherwise, the momentum is going to go. It's going to shift one way or the other. So you're either now having lost 4 out of 5, or hey, we won. We've stopped the bleeding. Now we can
move on and hopefully fix what's wrong. Wrong or right what's been wrong. So which is some of it just getting players back on the field.
Right.
When COVID hit, injuries have hit, which, welcome to the NFL during the pandemic. So anyways, and then again, thank you so much for all of the wonderful birthday wishes on Wednesday. Just blown away and overwhelmed by just the phone calls and the texts and the pictures and the Facebook messages. Just thank you so much. I feel very, very blessed to have so many people in my life, and I posted this last night on Facebook. So many people that are so generous, with their kindness, and I feel very blessed. We're still asking for prayers for JP's dad, the other Stan the man, the comedian. He is, still in the rehabilitation center, so we're still praying for him, and that surgery goes well and everything gets taken care of. So pray for him and JP and their family. And then my husband still needs prayers. Still in the hospital. Hopefully when I go in this morning, the doctor will be able to fill us in on possibility of when he gets to go home. He still has carbon dioxide built up in his system from not being able to exhale properly. If you've got sleep apnea, or if you think, oh, I just snore a lot, and you want to try to kind of, just say, oh, it's allergies, or oh, I'm getting older, or I've gained some weight and I'm snoring.
Don't play around with it.
Sleep apnea here at Lathan is nothing to play around with. My husband's oxygen was down to 70. It took them almost 24 hours to get him just on pure oxygen. He still is on pure oxygen because I'm understanding that's what expels the CO2 quicker from your body and your blood. But it took them like 24 hours to get him back up to 12 hours, I'm sorry, to get him back up to like a 92 for his oxygen level. And he still can't get above 90 on his own. So don't mess around with sleep apnea. His sleep apnea machine had broken, and he thought, I'll be good for a while until I get in to see the doctor. No, it just, and that's another problem. The pulmonologist was booked through December 17th, and I knew we were to the point where we couldn't wait.
Right, couldn't wait
we didn't have enough time. But they're all booked because of COVID. Their priority is seeing the COVID patients, which you understand that. But so don't mess around with sleep apnea. It's craziness. And then the supply chain demand, sleep machines are in high demand. Thanks, Joe Biden. So I guess all the sleep machines that these people need are out on one of the boats out in the ocean
Coast.
somewhere, on the West Coast. So it's just been crazy. But since I went ahead and ripped the Band-Aid off and mentioned Biden, let's go ahead and talk a little SCOTUS. We've had a lot of activity, and would love to know your thoughts on what's going on and where do you think we're headed.
Well, I listened to most of the oral argument. I didn't hear all of it. I listened to most of it on the Dobbs case. I guess that was Tuesday, which is Dobbs versus Jackson, the Mississippi abortion law.
Right.
And everybody, is watching this obviously, really, really closely, because I think if the Supreme Court is going to do something about Roe v. Wade, this is the case they're going to use to do it. It's a really, really dangerous business trying to predict what's going to happen with the Supreme Court based on how oral argument goes. I think Justice Thomas has even been quoted as saying, it's like a parlor game. People want to try to read the tea leaves by listening to oral argument. He's like, but you never know why a justice is asking the question they're asking, really.
And boy, there's so much speculation. I know you've heard it. Yeah.
There will be speculation for 6 months because this opinion is not going to come out until the end of the term. And
how does that work? Because there are people who were very frustrated. They thought we're going to have an answer, soon, like days and weeks.
No.
How does this work? Why is it that it's going to be the end of the term, which is 6 months from now?
I say that because typically when the Supreme Court releases an opinion that's going to be really controversial, they release it the very last week of their term, and then they leave town and go on vacation, so they don't have to deal with any of the fallout.
Yep.
So,
this is welcome to politics, folks. This is the way things go.
So that's why.
Oh yeah. By the way, we're cutting the budget. Your department's gone. See you later.
And we're out. So yeah, it would not surprise me if that opinion comes out on the very last day of the term, if not the last week or two of the term, which would be in June. And another part of the reason it takes so long is once they've heard oral argument, when the justices then start discussing the case amongst themselves, and then they start writing sort of draft opinions. And those draft opinions get circulated amongst the justices to see kind of, okay, who's on board with this opinion, who agrees with this reasoning, who agrees with that. And that's how you start to cobble together, what the final vote tally is. If you've got 5 people who are lined up, okay, I like what you wrote here, and I can go with that, then that ends up being the majority opinion. So there's a lot of back and forth, and I suspect there will be a lot of back and forth on this case in those draft opinions being circulated until you finally arrive at something that garners a majority. And then that ends up being published as the majority opinion, and then everybody then they got the dissents and the concurrences and all of that. So there's a lot of work to be done.
Right.
And then, like I said, also the reality is knowing how important that case is, and how no matter what they decide, there's going to be part of the country who's really not going to like it.
Yeah.
I suspect.
And do you think it's, and again, this is, speculating, and, it is what it is. Do you think it's 50-50 at this point, 60-40?
There are any number of outcomes that can come out of this, including.
Well, and I meant like the country's opinion is what I'm talking about.
Oh, on Roe?
Yeah. Because both, you've got your pro-choice and your pro-life, and we're both super
I don't know
loud.
I think it's really hard to say, because I think there are plenty of people who have really no idea what Roe actually means.
Yep.
And so you say Roe versus Wade, and they just think abortion is legal or abortion is illegal.
Right.
And so the polling, I don't really, if the court overturned Roe v. Wade,
right,
that policy decision would go back to the state legislatures,
right,
where it was before Roe v. Wade.
Right.
Well, it doesn't mean if they overturn Roe v. Wade that abortion is now outlawed in America.
Right.
It means the Texas law is the law in Texas.
Yes.
It means California.
It goes back to the 10th Amendment. You got states' rights at this point that kick back in, which is where it was, like you said, originally. And I don't think a lot of people know that.
Yeah, I think people think it's sort of all or nothing, like the Supreme Court. And this is, part of the problem with the Supreme Court making policy decisions.
Yes.
And that was one of the things at oral argument that I actually sort of even chuckled at when Justice Sotomayor was talking about, well, if this court, if Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade, that would just be, a political decision by this court, and that would certainly damage the reputation of the court. Let me tell you, she was talking specifically to John Roberts when she was saying that.
She absolutely was, yeah.
But it's laughable to say that if they overturn Roe v. Wade, that would just be the court wading into politics. If they overturned it, then the decision goes back to the elected legislatures,
right,
which is where politics is supposed to be done. Well, the most apolitical thing they can do is return it to the states, to the policymakers.
And because then it usually ends up becoming then a lot of times it ends up going through the state legislative process and then to the people for a vote eventually in some type of a constitutional amendment election or whatever the case might be. Or at the very
least, you vote on your state legislators.
Yeah, exactly. So you would say, hey, I'm going to send you. That would be one of those key issues that you need to know where that person stands before you send them back to office.
Right.
So, I think it's very interesting. She also, and I don't want to misquote her, but I'm just paraphrasing, because this is one of those things, and you're pro-life, I'm pro-life, and we're not apologizing for it. And we believe life begins at conception, and that's it. And I think at this point, and it's interesting listening to some of the hardcore pro-choice people still try to defend that it's a clump of cells.
Right.
When you see and hear a heartbeat.
Right.
And when the fetus is, when the baby is in utero and they put the suction device in it, if kids are on, parents turn it off. You got 5 seconds to turn it off. During the process of an abortion, and she was even talking about how, the baby will swim away, will move away from, and she's like, but how do we know if it really feels pain and this? And I'm like,
she actually said you can't say that just because the fetus recoils that they feel pain, because dead bodies have been known to react to stimuli.
Oh my gosh, I didn't know she added that onto it.
Yeah, she said, dead people, if you poke them sometimes, can still react. And I'm sitting there going, okay, but you just said it was a dead person.
Yeah. So then that means
that's really the question.
Then that means that's a person.
Is that a person or not?
Right. Yeah.
And I think that's what Justice Roberts was sort of driving at in some of his questions, because he made the point. It doesn't seem to me that the viability standard really means anything, because he's like, if we're talking about viability, well, what's the difference? You're just drawing a line. Roe drew it at 26, 27 weeks. Is like, what's wrong with 15 weeks, which is the Mississippi law. I think the attorney for Mississippi did a good job. I wouldn't say he did a great job. I thought he did a good job. I thought there were a couple of times where the more conservative justices were asking him questions that were sort of like, putting it on a tee for him, and he didn't really hit it out of the park. I think probably because he was trying to kind of adhere to the usual conservative legal arguments of text and history and tradition. I think he kind of missed an opportunity to talk about morality.
Right.
The law should be.
Yep.
That it's. But I mean, that's hindsight's 20/20 or whatever. I think the Solicitor General of the U.S. and the attorney from Planned Parenthood, they had a tough day, and I think they they had a tough job to do.
Oh, yeah.
Justice Thomas asked multiple times, what right are we talking about? Where in the text of the Constitution do I find this?
It's interesting. You said that literally right before you said that. Ann Guzman said the best question asked was by Thomas. Where is it in the Constitution?
Right.
Yeah.
And another thing that I found sort of ironic was when I think it was the U.S. Solicitor General was trying to answer that question and mentioned bodily autonomy. And I'm sitting there going, so you're the U.S. Solicitor General, so you argue on behalf of the United States. So the President of the United States is trying to mandate people have things injected into their body, and you're making a bodily autonomy argument?
Yeah. Probably not the best time to be doing that with
Maybe
the current
not.
president.
I thought the other thing that was just
that's a very good point.
That was cringeworthy and awkward was when she was making the point to Justice Barrett that not having access to an abortion and not being able to get rid of an unwanted pregnancy was a barrier to equality and achievement for women. You're making this point to a lady who has 7 children and who's on the Supreme Court of the United States. She has reached the absolute pinnacle of her
career.
profession.
Yes.
And you're trying to tell her that she couldn't do it.
Because you got
she had to have kids.
You got a gaggle of kids, so guess what? You're not going to, and I'm trying to think it was one of the Hollywood elite actresses who had talked about how this is a while back, had talked about how she was proud of her 2 abortions. And, she said that she would have not had the career that she had if she would have been saddled with kids. Now, she has since been married a couple of times, had a couple of other kids, and I think, how do those kids, someday, and her kids are young now, someday the kids are going to go back and see that on some version of social media somewhere. How does that make you feel?
Yeah. So, like I said, it's a dangerous game trying to predict what's going to happen based on oral argument. But listening to it, I thought it went really well. For the attorney from Mississippi, I thought the Solicitor General, kind of had a tough day. But I would say I'm cautiously optimistic that you'll get a good decision. But it comes down to, people think we have a 6-3 court, and we really have a 3-3-3 court. We have...
Explain that then.
Okay. So you got the 3 liberals.
Yep.
Sotomayor, Kagan, and Breyer, and they're entirely predictable. They never surprise. Their side is never surprised.
And on any topic.
Anything.
And let's put abortion aside. Where they're coming down.
Exactly, because they're living
10 out of 10 times.
Living document people. Yep. They're outcome based. They are policy makers in robes, and so whatever their desired policy is, they will find a way to write an opinion that gets there. Yep. So you got those 3. Then of the other 6, you really have a split along. I would say all 6 of the others are conservative in their interpretation of the Constitution. Yep. They're more along the textualist line. Some of them are more textualist than others. But where the split, I think, comes in is that you have 3, Thomas, Alito, and Gorsuch for the most part, who are not really institutionalists when it comes to the court itself. They're really not concerned about the reputation of the court or being perceived as a political body if we overturn this for this or whatever. Like, they look at their job as if a case comes before us and the prior case or the precedent is wrong, we should fix it.
Yep.
We should overturn bad rulings. Roberts doesn't want to overturn anything.
Yeah.
Barrett and Kavanaugh were still kind of figuring out where they were on that axis, on the institutionalist axis, as to, well, yeah, it's bad, but, we don't want to be like just overturning everything. And so Roberts is in a really tough spot because he is overly concerned about the reputation of the court, about being perceived as there's court packing kind of hanging over all of this.
Oh, yeah.
And that's why Sotomayor was making the point she did. It's why Breyer made the point that he did.
Absolutely. That was by design. That was by design. And it was directed towards no one else in the world except for Roberts. I mean, you're 100% right on that.
So I think if Roberts could, he would try to craft a majority opinion that leaves the Mississippi law alone, but also says nothing about Roe v. Wade. Now, that would be a train wreck of an opinion.
I was going to say, people we'd all lose our minds.
Yeah. But it wouldn't be the first time he's done something like that.
You're correct.
So I think that's what he is going to try to do. I think he's in a really tough spot because Thomas, Alito, and I think Gorsuch are pretty adamant based on some other things they've written and said that this Roe v. Wade was a bad decision regardless of what you think about the issue of abortion.
Well, I mean, even people back in the day and even, the woman herself who this was, crafted around had said this was wrong.
Yeah. Well, and here's the other thing that I haven't heard a lot of people talk about listening to some of the analysis after oral argument. And I hope this doesn't happen because it would kind of be a nightmare scenario, but you could end up without a majority opinion. If they split, split three ways, so let's say like the three liberals write an opinion that says Roe is good law, Mississippi law is overturned.
Yep, exactly.
You have 3 or 4, like Thomas, Alito, Gorsuch, and maybe Barrett, that write the opposite end of that spectrum that say Roe is bad, it should be overturned, Mississippi law is upheld.
Right.
And Roberts and Kavanaugh, or Roberts and somebody else, have a middle ground opinion that nobody really likes, and so it's just like
there's
the two of them.
There's no overwhelming majority.
You could have a 3-2-4 decision, so there is no majority opinion.
So basically, none of this happened. I mean, what happens is to go back to Mississippi.
It leaves the lower court decision in place, which the Fifth Circuit struck down Mississippi's law.
Right.
And so it would end up.
It reverts back to the last court here.
It would be the same as like before Barrett was sworn in, when you had 8 members on the court and they split 4-4. That leaves the lower court decision in place. It would
be the same way.
Yeah.
God, that's a scary thought, because this is one of those things. At some point in society, we've got to get this decision under control, and people need to know. People clearly need to know. And I look at it, and then we'll talk about something else, but besides crazy SCOTUS stuff. But it's and Lathan, I'm so glad you're in here today, because you're able to so eloquently lay out what's going on and what's happening.
I'm speculating just like everybody else.
Yeah, but you do it in a really good. You do it really well. You do it really well. Let's say that. But at some point. And I said this just the other night with some family and friends, and some who are very concerned.
Sure,
they're lean more towards the pro-choice aspect of things. And I said at some point you just have to admit that science has caught up. With the left's argument.
Yeah.
You just, and this is, now your kids are about the same age as my kids. And I remember, 6 weeks, I heard the heartbeat loud and clear, even a little bit before 6 weeks in my case, because I was like, a little bit of a,
we
risky
barely
pregnancy.
had sonograms when Roe v. Wade was
And
decided.
now you've got, my goodness, even I look back at the sonogram pictures, which I still have of, my kids, and you can clearly see the nose. You see somebody suck. See one of them sucking their thumb. You see everything, and that was back 22 years ago and 18 years ago.
Right.
And now my friends who are having babies or who are having grandchildren, you've got a 3D sonogram, and we're talking very early in the pregnancy, and it's just, again, science caught up.
Right.
So at some point, do we have to say, that's a human being? Obviously, again, I'm preaching to the choir. You and I agree from conception it's a human being. And life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Well, guess what? Little baby, your life.
And Kavanaugh actually made a point similar to that during oral argument, that he was talking about it's impossible to balance he said at some point, wherever you draw that line, you have 2 people involved, and it's impossible to balance one person's right to life with another one.
Exactly.
You can't. Your right to autonomy or life doesn't entitle you to end the life of somebody else.
Well, murder's not okay.
Yeah, exactly.
So
there were things. I think there were things to be cautiously, encouraged by listening to oral argument. But again, you have no idea why they ask the questions they ask, or why they make the statements they make. It's really just a parlor game until June when that opinion comes out.
Right, and thank you for explaining to us, because I knew there are a lot of people who contacted me, and they're like, I don't understand why we're going to have to wait so long for this. And I was like, tune in. Lathan will tell us on Friday. So there you go.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for that. That's great information. If anybody has any questions, shoot me a message. I can get you Lathan's information, and y'all can chat about it. It's just, and this is a time when we, us praying people.
Oh, absolutely.
Boy, howdy. Senator Angela Paxton sent out an email the other day and said, pray to end abortion. And she was adopted. She's very grateful that her birth mother gave her the opportunity to have life, because she was just on our show Wednesday and she had baby Paxton, her grandson, and you think that little baby wouldn't be there because Angela's kids wouldn't be here, because Angela wouldn't have been here. So if you start looking at it in terms of these are human beings, these are real people.
Yeah, we're missing an entire generation of people.
Exactly. So anyway, so very interesting information, great analysis, and thank you so much for that. Okay. Whew. The Cowboys won. It was 27-17. They looked, the very little of the game I was able to watch last night, they looked hungrier. They looked like the Cowboys of a few weeks ago. I mean, like, gosh, on Thanksgiving, it was like, oh my gosh, can we complete anything? Did you get to watch the game last night?
I did not. We had a Christmas open house at the office last night.
Okay.
So, I didn't get home till late. I caught some analysis this morning on the radio on the way in.
Yeah.
Which in full disclosure, I haven't cared about the NFL in probably close to 20 plus years.
Yeah.
I do my best to keep marginally updated on the Cowboys because I live in DFW.
In this area, yeah.
And if you don't, there is a large portion of the population for whom conversation is impossible for about 6 months out of every year.
Yes.
So that is the extent of how much I follow the Cowboys.
Well, and JP had gotten so frustrated, and I had as well, with the NFL, with just some of the political correctness. Yeah. There's just a part of me that I can't let go of watching the Cowboys.
Yeah,
and especially, I'm always one of those. And I always say this. Okay, so the last time the Cowboys won a Super Bowl, I was still a high school teacher, and so since then, since the Cowboys have won that Super Bowl, I've given birth to 2 children who have now become 18 and 22, who have become adults themselves. Yeah. We need a Super Bowl trophy.
Yeah.
And we used to go to church back in the day. Well, my mom still goes there, but St. Paul Catholic Church, and the Staubach family is Catholic. And when it wasn't football season, we would sit like right behind the Staubach family. And there's a part of the Catholic Mass where you shake each other's hands, say peace be with you. Be with you. And so my brother, and we were, in elementary school and stuff. My brother would, go to church, shake Roger Staubach's hands, peace be with you, Roger Staubach, and of course he had to say his whole name. Yeah. And then, Kelly would go out and be like, I just shook Roger Staubach's hand in church, and make a big deal. Everybody's like, oh, dude, wow, Yeah. So huge Cowboy fans. I'd love to see him. I'd love to see him in the Super Bowl this year. And if we would have lost last night,
I will say this:
it would have just been all hopes.
It's sort of entertaining as a spectator sport. The phenomenon that is Cowboys football in the Metroplex, because I have never seen the bandwagon effect both ways.
Yes.
On a team like there is with the Cowboys. They win one game, and all of North Texas is on the bandwagon.
Yeah.
They lose the next game, they're terrible. Jerry Jones is the devil.
Yeah, I know. Jerry Jones, stop managing the team. Yeah.
So for somebody who's sort of a disinterested observer, it's highly entertaining, I must say.
Oh, that's just funny. Yeah. Carl McCrone's like, how about them Cowboys? And Kara said this is very informative, so she appreciates that. And hi to everybody from the crew who's watching. I suggest you go back if you want to know more about the SCOTUS debate on pro-life versus pro-choice. Lathan had some great commentary on that, so that was a little bit earlier. But so go Cowboys, and you're right. I've never seen anything like it. And even friends of mine who are like hardcore fans for other teams, they're like, what is up with you Cowboy fans? I'm like, I don't know. Well, we're still America's team.
Yeah.
No, we'll never watch you again,
Exactly. Yeah.
We're very entertaining. Okay, so speaking of something else entertaining, Brett, can you get the video queued up before we talk a little Christmas movies? And if you've got a favorite Christmas movie, pop it in on the feed. Okay, so Lathan, who, like I said, attorney, a former elected official, just has a wealth of talents about himself. He did this parody, and I've told y'all before that he's in a band, so he sings and plays the guitar and all that kind of good stuff. So we're going to play this parody because it's Friday, and I think we all need to laugh.
Can I give like a little bit of an intro here?
Yes. So, please do.
What happened was, our little podcast, Snarky Parenthetical, Stan Corbett and I put that together. And a couple of weeks ago, it was actually before Thanksgiving, there was a little news story that not many people picked up. I think I saw one article in the New York Post about it, where President Biden was meeting Charles and Camilla, and apparently farted really loudly.
Like it was, like it was noticed. It was audible. Yeah. It was audible.
And Camilla, according to the New York Post, and royal watchers everywhere, I guess, had not stopped talking about it for like weeks. And so I just sort of came up with the idea of, well, we have to do something about this. And so this is what happened.
I love it. All right, we're going to play it. Yeah, keep it on for the bloopers. Yeah, this is just so great.
Talent, man. Yeah, I just show up. They just give me a guitar and say, hey, play this. I don't know who this is, man. Yeah, some bloke wrote some different lyrics to REO Speedwagon song. I mean, who is REO Speedwagon to begin with, right? And you have this dude who overpronounces R's. Like, that's his trick. That's his thing, man. Like, everybody just knows it anymore. Like, I don't know.
You know how hard it is to verbally fart in the same key you're singing? See how well you.
That's what I do. People tell me, hey, show up here, put these glasses on, right? Because you got to give a tribute to the king.
The important thing is, like, how's my hair? Hey, I'm a bloody artist, mate. Like, I can't have cell phones going off when I'm trying to sing, all right? I mean, it's a minimal amount of, like, professional courtesy, I mean, I'm here, I'm sober, I'm trying to sing. I'm partially sober. I'm trying to sing, and you got your bloody cell phone going. It's just distasteful, man. Like, come on, man.
Yeah, he was the king, just so you know.
You're even cracking yourself up there.
So the one, I guess.
I just love that. That's just so funny.
I was just, I knew we had to do something, and I came up with the idea of the parody song, and I was like, well, if we're going to do it, we have to do I Can't Fight This Feeling Anymore.
Well, yeah.
Maybe
it had to be.
Yeah, if I had to do it over again, it's not really a regret, but I might think better of trying to sing it in the same key that the guy from REO Speedwagon sings it in.
Oh, goodness
because
gracious.
That guy is like a human helium balloon.
Yeah, I know.
And and then trying to like overpronounce the R's the way that guy
Yes.
does, when everything that you've ever been taught about how to sing is to not do that.
To not do that, yeah.
So yeah, we had a lot of fun. That's where the outtakes came from, was just Stan just constantly recording as we were trying to get this thing done. So that's, a little insight into the warped mind of me.
I love it. I think that's so much fun. And do you have that like out on your Facebook page, or where can people pull just that parody if they want to share it?
If you go to YouTube and search Snarky Parenthetical, that's where all of our videos are, and
including that gem.
One. Yeah,
and it is. I guess there's just so much craziness going on in the world, so much serious.
That's why we decided to do the show.
Yep.
I needed, sort of a creative outlet.
Yeah.
And at the very first show that we did, we were just sort of explaining what we're going to do. I was like, I want this to be like Mystery Science Theater 3000 for life.
Yes.
Where we just sit back and look at what's going on and just poke fun at everything.
Yeah. And nothing's off limits.
Yeah.
Kind of a thing. Yeah.
So. And
we need that. I think, right now we're just at a time in society where everybody takes, and I get it. We're in tough times, since the pandemic, everything has changed. Everybody at this point, most everybody, and if you haven't, you're very blessed, has lost either a friend or a family member to COVID. There's the argument, some people are losing their job because they don't want the vaccine, because they've already had COVID, whatever the case may be. Then you've got, job issues. You've got supply demand issues. You've got, now I did hear something this morning. Texas is the second lowest in gas prices, but I mean, you've got places where it's $95-$100 to fill your car up with gas, which is ridiculous.
All of this stuff is why you need to be able to laugh at everything.
Yes.
And nothing should be off limits.
Yep.
It takes the sting out of some of all that stuff.
It really does.
If there's somebody out there kind of making fun of it.
Yeah.
And I think I've said it on here, or I know I've said it on my show, like the one thing, if somebody tells you can't make jokes about that, whatever that is, has power over you.
Yes.
It takes the power out of it. It takes it changes the it takes the sting out of these things, and it if somebody tells you can't make fun of that person or that issue is too serious, then that's the exact one you should go after.
Yeah.
For that very reason.
And comedians are being told are
that's
being
their job.
But they're being ostracized from the Hollywood elite.
Unless you're Dave Chappelle.
Dave Chappelle, and you know what? Because that dude just doesn't care.
Nope.
And you know what? Netflix, that's where he plays. Yep. They're going to keep bringing him back.
Of course they are.
Everybody and their dog. I've got people, who care about politics, hate politics, and everybody. Whenever a new Dave Chappelle stand-up comes out, everybody watches it.
Can't miss.
But the majority of them are apologizing for a tweet from 10 years ago.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm like, at some point, if you're a comedian, that's your job to make fun of that stuff.
It is your job.
If you're a good comedian and you're relevant and getting paid.
If you want to do, topical humor, I mean, you can do, hey, did you ever think about, jokes like Seinfeld and made a career on it, right? And did a whole TV show about it.
Yep.
If that's the style that you want to do, great. You don't have to do quote political comedy, but if you're going to do it, that's how you do it.
Exactly. Exactly.
And that is, I think, if people would just follow his example, that is the solution to cancel culture. You just refuse
just say,
to be canceled.
You can't cancel me.
I will not apologize for what I said.
Yeah. And there are people, there are haters and stuff. But it's interesting. You find out, well, how many haters are there? Because somehow this guy's taking it to the bank.
Yeah.
Netflix is taking it to the bank.
Exactly.
So nobody's canceling him out. So really, this cancel woke culture that's out there, how relevant is it? Or is it just these happen to be the loudest, most prominent people on social media? But what I'm seeing is, this trickle down to, you and I have friends who are out there who are blasting fellow conservatives, fellow Christians on social media. I don't get it. At the end of the day, you know what? We do need to have more parody songs like the one you did, because that's something, it's just funny. It's not being mean. Hey, it's a part of life. That happens. It did happen.
It happened. And
it
there's
was
no,
funny.
in what universe is that not funny?
Yeah, it is.
Like
and
the actual event, I'm not talking about the video.
No.
There's plenty of people who probably don't think the video is
I think the
funny.
video's hilarious.
But
so.
like the actual events. Like,
yeah. It's one of those things. And again, like to me, I'm like, and I always told my kids this, be the first one to laugh at yourself and make fun of yourself. You know what? For one thing, it doesn't hurt so bad when other people do it.
Yeah.
I know there are certain things that I do say the way I am that literally make people nuts and they make fun of. Guess what? I make fun of it 10 days before you make fun of it because I live it, you know? And it's just all of a sudden, if you can laugh at yourself, then in life is serious. Then it helps you deal with the tougher parts of life, kind of a thing, you know? Anyway, so I love it. I think it's great. Head to YouTube if you don't want to share the whole show today and you just want to share the parody video and get everybody laughing on social media. Send out Lathan's. They go to the Snarky Parenthetical.
If you go to YouTube, search Snarky Parenthetical.
And you do a show every week. So pretty much every week. I know you've been traveling.
Yeah.
It's been kind of a crazy schedule for you.
Yeah.
You've been speaking nonstop lately, which is a good for your gig, but didn't have as much time for the show.
Yeah.
So go out there and check that out. Something else, and again, because we are in a time where you've got this, and I still don't understand this. The people who are so politically upset with their relatives that they didn't even get together on Thanksgiving, like family members that didn't come to the normal Thanksgiving gathering of 25 family members because they're upset politiced. How does that happen? Can you not put it aside and just talk about the Dallas Cowboys for a couple of hours?
What are your priorities?
Yeah.
I mean, I get it. Policy matters. Yep. It affects our life. It is important. I've worked in politics many years. I wouldn't have done it if I didn't think it was important.
Yeah.
Right? But when your life is over, you're not going to sit there and wonder about, boy, I wish I had one more political argument over XYZ. Get some perspective. And I think there's a lot of people on both sides of the aisle, frankly, for whom politics has become their religion.
Yeah. I've seen it. I've seen it take good people down. And I'm like, you got into politics because you wanted to make sure that your rights as a Jewish person or a Christian person or whatever. And that's kind of a secondary thing now because politics is their religion, and that's false idol there.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's in the Bible.
Yeah, I mean, you can have deep philosophical, even theological, intractable disagreements and still get along.
Yes. Yeah.
In fact, you should.
Why not?
And if you can have those discussions without them turning into arguments and getting emotional about them, it's actually healthy and productive. There's people that friends like people I went to law school with or undergrad or whatever, who based on what I see them post on social media, I know we disagree on everything. I don't block that person. I actually want to hear what they have to say.
Well, and again, if this is a person who you had a friendship with, and then especially I go back to the family thing. Why would you do? And then that, and again, with all the horrible things going on in the world, well, gosh, what happens if that family member's not there next Thanksgiving?
Yeah, I mean, and it's sort of like back when I did actually practice law briefly. This is why I would not do work for family. I would refer them to people.
Yeah, that's smart.
Who could, because I would tell them when they would.
It's going to get too
emotional. Well, I'll just say, look, you can fire your attorney, you can't fire your cousin.
That's a good point. Yeah, that's a good
point. I'm still going to see you at Thanksgiving and Christmas.
Yeah.
I'm happy to help you find somebody who I think will do a good job, but I'm not mixing the two.
Yeah.
Because,
and that's probably
because family doesn't change.
That's probably a smart rule of thumb. Well, and like I said, I had a conversation that involved abortion with a family member, one family member who's also pro-life, but then another family member who's pro-choice. And I said, I'm going to say this. I said, I'm just going to put this out there, something to think about, because this family member is now having grandchildren. And I said, I said, you got to think at some point, you got to think about the science. You saw a sonogram of a grandchild at a very young age. And the great thing is, we did not argue.
Yeah.
I mean, a few minutes later, we're doing a fireball shot and everybody's taking selfies and it's a good time. Why can't family members have those kind of discussions? And why can't friends have those kinds of discussions? So that's why I'm going to always send you over to the Snarky Parenthetical. I'm going to send you to any more parody. And I highly recommend you do some more parody videos because that was just great. And leave in the blooper, the outtakes, hilarious. The outtakes were great.
You know, if we had sort of unlimited cameras and budget, we would probably roll one camera constantly
just
recording
solid.
how we record the show because there's so much that doesn't end up in the final.
And there's a show within that.
There is. Yeah.
Yeah. Even like when we did radio and now doing the podcast world, I'm always like, there's like a whole show behind the show, you know. I mean, it's
either that or we have to start doing like Snarky Parenthetical After Dark.
There you go.
Where it truly is no holds barred.
Yeah, JP and I are getting ready to start because with his job, he's traveling and he's in schools doing tribunals, which is a good thing. And business is booming, so we're gonna have to start doing some recording at night. And I said, well, okay, if we're recording at night, I'm gonna have a glass of wine. He's like, but if we rebroadcast it the next morning, I'm like, well, then people might have a really fun chuckle over their cup of coffee in the morning. So there you go. But I think we're just to the point where we need to laugh. We need to go to what really kind of fuels your soul, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And
so let's talk Christmas movies.
Yeah, so I was gonna say Christmas movies, which are so much fun. Golly, so I'm gonna have to go back to. Okay, first of all, Christmas shows when you were a kid that you still, even though your kids are older, that you still would watch as an adult. Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, Frosty the Snowman. Yeah. Every single time. And then going to Thanksgiving, I'd have to pull in It's a Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown for Halloween, or didn't they have a Thanksgiving special? I think that was a throwback. They did something with the Pilgrims or something. But anyways, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, literally saw it was coming on the other night, recorded it, and was like, oh, I'm watching it. And I'm like, I'm watching it by myself and I don't care.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, are those some of yours, or do you have any others from when you were a kid that you just still love today?
When I was a kid, probably those. By the time I was probably, I don't know, preteen, teen, I think was when National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation actually came out in the theater and I went to see it.
Yep.
And I have basically memorized the movie. I've seen it so many times.
So you could literally recite. Yeah.
I could start with scene one right now, and if we had 2 hours.
I love it.
And so much so that when my girls were younger, Kim walked in the room, and I was watching that movie with them, and she looked at me with this kind of horrified look on her face, and she's like, "You're letting them watch this movie?" And I was like, "Hey, remember, I know every syllable of this movie." And I have the mute button on the remote.
So I know when.
So it's going to be okay.
Yes, I'm editing as I go.
And she looked at me, she's like, "You're exactly right.
Yep, that's
go
true.
ahead."
Can't argue that.
Yeah. So my kids have now added that to their list. So that's one we have to watch every year.
Oh, yeah.
Christmas Story.
And lots of folks are agreeing with you on that one.
Christmas Story, Ralphie and the Red Ryder BB gun. That's a...
You'll shoot your eye out, kid.
Exactly. I can tell you something that's just sort of been recently added to our must-watch list. I guess it was maybe last year. My girls and I were kind of working our way through several different things on Netflix, and we started. I never watched the show when it was actually airing originally, but we watched Community. Did you ever watch the show Community?
Yeah, I remember that show. Yeah.
Okay. Completely random and manic and just ridiculous.
It was a funny show. I watched it a couple of seasons back when it was on,
funny.
and it was funny. Yeah.
And there's a Christmas episode in that show called Abed's Uncontrollable Christmas.
Oh,
and
I
haven't seen it.
It's
Complete stop motion animation, and it's the most random. Like if you like Community because of the random nature of it, and it's just sort of manic, everything's on 10 all the time. Abed's Uncontrollable Christmas. So when we came across that episode of the show,
you're like,
we were laughing so hard. My girls were like, "We have to watch this every Christmas."
Yeah.
So after we got the Christmas tree put up, day after Thanksgiving
Yep.
or whatever, about to go back to work from taking time off, and the girls were like, "Can we go ahead and start Christmas by watching Abed's Uncontrollable Christmas?" I was like, yes.
Why not?
Cue it up.
Cue it up, man.
So that's a new one that's sort of been added in the last.
I'm gonna have
couple
to
of
check.
years.
I don't think I saw that episode. I'm gonna have to check that out because
Let me just say,
that was a funny show.
2 words: Christmas pterodactyl.
Oh no. Okay, yeah. Now I have to
in
watch
that
it.
show. Yeah.
Now I have to watch it. Well, okay. So we've got Holiday Inn. We've got White Christmas, which
I mean, the
Charlie
classics.
Brown, Any Day,
Sure.
and I love the classics. And I always feel bad because whenever I talk about Christmas movies. Yeah, there are a ton. Miracle on 34th Street. I mean,
Sure.
there's so many great classic. Beautiful, just unbelievable that still withstand the test
Absolutely.
of time
Yeah.
movies. But I go to
It's a Wonderful Life. Jimmy
oh,
Stewart. Are you kidding
Oh my
me?
God, you don't get any better than that.
Yeah.
What a great message that in that movie, and just amazing. So, but I've got to go with Carl is saying the Macy Days. Day parades, and I'm a huge. I mean, it wouldn't be Thanksgiving without the Macy and Grogu.
Right. Of course, he was in there. Yeah,
He was in it this year. But I'm going to have to go with one of the ones you said, which is A Christmas Story. And we have, and I wonder if I may try to see if I can thumb through my pictures and find this one picture. Will tell you how serious my family is about A Christmas Story. And for years we have watched that. It was on. What was the
TNT runs it like 24 on a
24
loop
for literally,
like
and so
24
we
hours.
started watching this before we had purchased it.
Yeah.
So it's in our library of online movies now. But it was one of those that we would watch it, and it was just on constantly.
Yeah,
We have
in the background while you're doing everything else.
Exactly, and we've got like every movie, every line. That's one of those. I said, and I said fudge. But I didn't say fudge. I mean, and just all of the great lines in that movie. Bumpa says, just the dogs and the turkey and all of that. And so a few years back when the kids, we'd been watching it for years, and how they didn't let Ralphie open up his gun until the very end.
Yep.
So we had 2 Red Ryder BB guns hidden for later, and it was wrapped in A Christmas Story wrapping paper, of course. And of course, we've got the full-size lamp.
Yeah.
It's Fragile. It's a major
Must be
award.
Italian.
And it must be Italian.
Yeah.
Love that. I've got a picture, and I'll try to find it here in a bit, where the kids, we've got a Christmas tradition, and then I'm going to mention my other favorite movie that I just can't do without. Every year since the kids were pretty young, I think this will be our 13th or 14th year of going to the real Santa, who's at North Park, and we used to dress them up all cute, in nice clothes and everything, and then as the kids got older, and it became more painful. My daughter, she's still into it. 22. She's like, when are we going to see North Park Santa? And I was like, okay, probably around this date, and we've already got our outfits for this year. So the last few years, they've worn like either an ugly Christmas sweater, or which I think one year it was CJ's ugly Christmas sweater was A Christmas Story Christmas sweater. Emily's had like a reindeer sticking out of the front of it, and then they wore different pajamas. But I've got a picture of them with the pink bunny suit.
Oh,
both of them in Santa's lap.
Yeah.
Just so great. And then I've also got a picture of them in these onesies, like footed pajama onesies. And it's Elf, Buddy the Elf.
Buddy the Elf.
I just bought Kira a narwhal. I was like, look, Kira, it's Mr. Narwhal. Hi, Kira. Hi, Mr. Narwhal. And I'm sitting there, hope you find your dad. Thanks, Mr. Narwhal. I love Buddy the Elf is my spirit animal. Is that still a thing? First of all, he loves sugar. He loves candy corns.
Right.
Same here. Hi, what's your favorite color? Is how he answers the phone. Okay, so my friends and family are going to be like, oh, let's not bring that back. So when my son was just a few weeks old when that movie came out, that was literally the first movie. I mean, he was just a newborn. He was born on November 5th, and just a couple of weeks later, we were taking him to see Elf.
Yeah.
He slept through it, but anyways, took Emily and everything, and we went to see Elf in the movie theater when it first came out. And after that movie came out, and you know me well enough to know, I did answer my phone. Hi, what's your favorite color? For like a month. Like I took the joke way too far. Everybody's like, please let it go to voicemail. Please let it go. This is before everybody was texting all the time. They're like, oh, don't let her answer. I don't want to know I don't want to be asked what my favorite color is. Yeah. I love that movie. I love the guy, Peter Dinklage, who's one of my favorite actors. And he's like, oh, you must be a South Pole elf. Oh, you're an angry elf. And it's just the whole movie when he's going up the escalator, and then when he goes out and he's jumping across the yellow lines, he's in New York City.
Absolutely.
When he goes through the revolving door, oh God, it's just so funny.
So some people really like Will Ferrell. Some people just don't think he's funny at all. I'm one of the people that really likes Will Ferrell. Even though I think Elf is kind of the exception that proves the rule. I think in almost every other movie that he does, he's playing the same character over and over and over again. It's just a buffoon who takes himself really seriously.
Talladega Nights.
Exactly. I mean, you name it. Every other, except Elf.
Exactly.
It's kind of the exception that proves the rule, which is why I like it so much.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with you on that.
He played sweet and innocent really, really well. I remember watching it the first time, and I was waiting for him to snap, right? And do the really, really angry thing, because that's every other skit that Will Ferrell ever does, like on Saturday Night Live, is him, being really, really, passive or whatever, and then at some point just losing it and yelling, right? And so I remember watching the movie the first time.
Old school.
Yeah,
Old School's one of those where he was everything's all good, and then all of a sudden he just loses his mind. Yeah.
And so I remember watching it for the first time, waiting for that to happen, and it never happening. And I was like, oh, well, good for you. You actually played this exactly the way
he played it straight, so to speak. Yeah.
And having, I just blanked on his name. Bob Newhart playing his dad. Is one of the greatest casting decisions ever.
He's one of my favorite. I mean, a show that I'll binge watch, and we just recently binge watched it, and I was like, I loved this show when I was younger. I love it even more as an adult now that I kind of get some of the humor, the wink and all. Yeah. I was like, oh, that was kind of inappropriate for back in the day, and my parents didn't know what I was watching. Yeah. But the Bob Newhart show.
Yeah.
And then the way they ended, remember, then he did a second show where he had the inn in Vermont, and and they ended that. Yeah, we'll show this picture in just a second. They ended that sitcom the best a sitcom has ever ended. And instead of him, he wakes up and he's like, wow, I had the craziest dream. And this was the series finale. And instead, he wakes back up and he's in bed with Suzanne Plachette, who was his wife from the original show from the 70s. And that was so classic and so great. But yeah, Elf, and I loved Elf because, so it literally has me cracking up the whole entire movie. But at the end, when she starts singing, and I get choked up thinking about it. I cry. I know how it's going to end. I know I'm going to get emotional, but when everybody's all around and, they should go to the bar and everybody's singing, they go to the warehouse, everybody's singing at the mall, everywhere that he's touched. And I cry at the end of that movie every single time because it is so sweet and it just stays, it gives you that optimism and hope, which we desperately need. Okay, so to prove that I am a crazy mom and God bless my two poor kids, here's the Christmas Story bunny. Alf, this was from Christmas of, I think, 2019. This might have been the year before the pandemic, I think. Yep, go ahead.
There you go.
Good. And there's that. So God bless my kids. Now, my son just turned 18. I had asked him, my daughter, of course, I think she'd be 40 and she would still go do these pictures for me. Because I'm like, I'm not going to ever ask y'all for anything for Christmas. Just if y'all will please go with us. My husband goes at like 5 a.m. to get in line, to get a ticket and all this kind of stuff. We have literally on our mantle, it's all of these Nutcracker picture frames with all the years of these. Okay, so, and you can take that down now because this year, and CJ promised me, like I said, he just turned 18. It's his senior year. I think he wants to go far, far away from home. I don't know why. So for my birthday, of course, I said, okay, I just want everybody to come over and we'll watch a musical of my choice. We watched 1978's Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Heart Club Band with Peter Frampton and the Bee Gees. You can't go wrong. George Burns, Aerosmith, Earth, Wind, and Fire, Steve Martin, Alice Cooper. I mean, it's greatness. But, okay, so this year, I know CJ, I've got him locked in because he lives at home, and I think he would like me to help pay for college. I've got him locked in. So I said, even if this is our last year, we're going big on this. I found Buc-ee's, and we love Buc-ee's.
Sure.
I found Buc-ee's onesies with the hood, the beaver hood, and everything. I found them like this summer when I was in Austin coming through the Temple Buc-ee's, which I love. So this year, Santa picture, going to be in a Buc-ee's outfit. So there you go. We take it very seriously.
Yeah.
Oh, well, Lathan, thank you so much. I always love it when you come in. We always have such a great time. Anything you've got coming up that you want to push? Any speaking engagements? Any more parodies? Oh, are you playing anywhere? Are you starting to play again yet?
We actually, this time of year, we start to kind of shut down because my lead guitar player is a management for UPS, and they're a little busy right now.
Yeah.
So
real busy.
We have to kind of take a break through the holidays, but we'll be back at it probably in January. But Snarky Parenthetical is still going. I apologize for the inconsistency, but the day job keeps interfering. So
that paying gig, you know.
Yeah. So there'll be more episodes to come. It is now we're starting to put the audio on Spotify. So if you want to just listen to it, you can go to Spotify and find it, and Apple iTunes, anywhere you get podcasts. So there'll be new material coming out there.
Love it.
Soon. So
love it. Awesome. And then keep us posted back in January when you start playing again, because we'll get some members of the crew and we'll go out and cheer you on and sing along with you. So you're like, no,
I need all the help I can get.
Just cheer me on. No, you've got a great voice. Well, thank y'all so much. Everybody have a blessed weekend. We've got This Pink Cloud coming up next. Kilroy's Conversation. We're going to be playing some of our telethon spots from Veterans Day again. If you are in the giving spirit for Christmas, we are still asking for donations for the Dallas Homeless Veterans Services. Great organization. All of the money you donate goes straight to helping those veterans who are in need. And there are a lot of veterans in need this Christmas season. And then Sunday, we have asked Dr. Be Good and her show, and she'll be talking about parents' rights and education, which... How did that ever, you need to talk about that? They're your kids. They
seem to have heard something about that lately.
Yeah, that's been a hot topic. And then we'll be back, of course, with JP, Kathy, and the crew again on Monday, and a new episode of Heart and Soul of Texas Women. So anyways, have a blessed weekend. Thanks again, Lathan, for coming in.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
All right. See y'all later.